Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of MAGA Headline News. My name is Mike, and tonight we got a pretty interesting story for you. Um, what I'm going to show you is a former housing secretary for the Bush administration, Catherine Austin Fitts. She made an appearance on Tucker Carlson, okay, and she's claiming that the Bush administration, the deep state, former administration since the 90s has spent $21 trillion on a network of deep underground bases, bunkers, and interconnected tunnel system, basically underneath the entire United States. Okay. I know it sounds like an outrageous claim. And the crazy thing is that I've been down this rabbit hole a long time ago, but I've never heard her name. And I'm going to show you what I have read a long time ago and what I saw on this a long time ago. But for somebody of her level, to be claiming this, okay, this is not somebody that's just a fly by night person. I mean, she was entrusted with a major role in the Bush administration. So for her to be saying this has to have some credibility. Now, I'm going to play you just a quick clip of her on Tucker Carlson right here. Just check this out for a second.
Believe that there's a whole constellation of underground bases built by the U.S. government in the United States. Like that fact alone, just the physical infrastructure of it, because normally talk about what are they doing?
It's enormously expensive.
What's unbelievable. And like it raises lots of practical questions. How do you ventilate them? What about food and water supply?
Where's the energy? Are we using breakthrough energy or
where's the energy come from?
Right. Because I'm sure that we have the ability to produce breakthrough energy at very low cost. If you go back,
why are you sure of that?
My Dutch partners, I met because they were doing a series of conferences on breakthrough energy. And they brought together breakthrough energy inventors from around the world. And, you can see all the videos up on the internet and really went through the history from Tesla on of different inventors who have discovered and claimed different innovations with breakthrough energy.
But you believe that there's a whole constellation.
Okay, so that's Catherine Austin Fitts. Okay, like I said, for someone of her level, her credentials to be claiming that, it's really unbelievable. And you would think this is a good time for people like that to come out because they know it's pretty safe with President Trump. You don't come out and say that stuff when the deep state's in control. Okay. So from that, we had this article written the other day. Okay. So I'm going to read this real quick with you. Okay, former Bush housing official claims government has spent $21 trillion building an underground doomsday base. A former housing official who worked under President George H.W. Bush has made an astonishing claim that the United States government spent years funneling money into the creation of a secret underground city where the rich and powerful, or the deep state, can shelter in the event of a near extinction event. Catherine Austin Fitts, who served as the Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development for Housing between 1989 and 1990, made the shocking allegations during an appearance on the former Fox News host Tucker Carlson's podcast. Although there is no concrete evidence to support her claims, Fitts, 74, who was originally from Philadelphia, cited research by Michigan State University economist Mark Skidmore, who released a report in 2017 stating that he had a team of scholars that uncovered $21 trillion in unauthorized spending in the Departments of Defense, Housing, and Urban Development for years. At the same time, Skidmore noted he first began investigating the unreported spending after he heard Fitch refer to a report which indicated the Army had a $6.5 trillion unsupported adjustment or spending in fiscal 2015. All right. I'm not going to go on too much further, okay, because I want to get into this a little bit more as far as what else we have heard about this, okay? I'm going to pull this up right here. This was on X, where there's just a little more information about what is being claimed. $21 trillion gone. A former Bush administration insider just dropped one of the most insane claims ever made. The media is silent. Now, had somebody claimed this about anything happening under the Trump administration, they don't even care if it's an anonymous source. It would have been all over CNN and MSNBC. So, you know, if this was done by the deep state, obviously the media is going to be silent. According to the New York Post, Catherine Austin Fitts says the U.S. government secretly built $21 trillion underground city, over 170 plus underground and underwater facilities connected by hidden high-speed transit systems, powered by advanced energy tech we have never been shown. No media coverage, just vanished money and quiet construction. Between 1998 and 2015, trillions disappeared from the Department of Defense and HUD. And Fitz says this is where it went. These are not bunkers. They're fully functioning shadow cities meant to shelter the powerful in the case of global catastrophe. Here's
a former Bush administration official has come.
They are not meant for you. No one told the public. No one asked for permission. No one has confirmed or denied it. Okay. So she obviously knows something. Okay. You know, we've heard reports of this. And what's funny is that under, you know, the first George W. Bush, that's when all of the New World Order talk started. And if you go back and Google, and, you know, a lot of things I'll tell you to go back and look at yourself, because it's good for people to start doing their own research, learn how to dig into this stuff. You know, a lot of you guys could already, you know, a lot of you guys might have heard all these stories before, but there's a lot of people that haven't. But getting to learn how to dig into this stuff and getting past the, you know, the Google censorship and everything else, where to go, is good to do, because it's how you're going to find other sources of news, you know, whistleblowers, people that are not being promoted through the first 35 pages of Google. Okay. So the New World Order speeches, if you go look up President Bush, the first one, type in New World Order talk or New World Order speeches, you're going to find on numerous occasions George Bush talking about forming a new world order, and not in any kind of aspect where it's like an American freedom type of thing. I mean, this was mentioned many times by him. And in the same years was when the first attempt at it was signed, where it was Agenda 21. And we had a bunch of stuff happen in the last, you know, 15, 20 years where they were supposed to implement this Agenda 21 thing. It made progress, but obviously never happened. So then right before 9/11, you remember Donald Rumsfeld, he was in front of Senate or the Congress and came out and he said, you know, we have $9 trillion missing. It was on television, and the next morning is when 9/11 happened, and we never heard about that $9 trillion again. Now, during all of this time, and that's just a couple of things that I'm citing, you know, there was a lot more pointing towards something going on with dark money, bigger than the usual anyway, around those times. But during those times, there was a guy, his name was Phil Schneider, and this is where I heard about this. His name was Phil Schneider, and he used to make the rounds around America, you know, doing lectures and talks about these deep underground bases. He was an engineer, geological engineer, and he claimed to have built these bases, built these tunnels, worked on them. And he was, you know, one of the first whistleblowers to ever come out with anything like this. And some of his claims were really, you know, there were, you know, claims about extraterrestrials. But listen, he was a patriot. And, you know, sometimes you get a feeling when you listen to somebody talk, are they genuine? Are they not? Are they lying? Are they not? I mean, this guy would have had to really make up a lot of stuff. And he gave me a very similar feeling to the feeling I get when I listen to Bob Lazar talk, the scientist that worked at Area 51. He was one of the first whistleblowers about Area 51. And I did listen to a number of Phil Schneider's speeches over the years, and I believe one interview. But the problem with his stuff was back then the equipment was, you know, the technology for like home equipment or the stuff he was using was not that good. The audio was like terrible. So you have to fight to kind of listen to it, but it's worth every second. So This was a little bit on Reddit that I found here about Phil Schneider, just a kind of little bit of an introduction to him. So Phil Schneider, shocking yet forgotten whistleblower, claims 1995 Schneider and Los Alamos National Lab. So this stuff is really out there, but it's very interesting. Whistleblower Phil Schneider was a geologist, structural engineer, and underground tunneling expert who claimed to have participated in the secret construction of many deep underground cities and bases in North America and abroad for the government. Phil believed 11 of his close friends had been murdered in the last 22 years, 8 of whose deaths had been officially explained as suicides. And he does talk about them in those speeches and their names and can confirm they were his friends. After the death of his father, Otto, in 1993, the murder of his best friend, Ron Rummel, in August of 93, and the discovery that he had terminal cancer in 95, Phil was compelled to go public with all the top secret information he had in his possession through a series of public presentations across the USA. And yes, he used to bring out some like really crazy evidence, and he, claims that he was in some sort of a battle. He had a really, really crazy scar on his stomach he used to show. But he gave one of his final presentations at the Preparedness Expo on September 22nd. It says 1955 here, but I think they mean 95, or it held at Orange County Convention Center in Florida. Phil died on January 17th, 1996, 2 months after his final lecture in November in Denver. He was discovered in his apartment, reportedly strangled by a catheter found wrapped around his neck. The rubber catheter hose was wrapped 3 times around his neck and tied off in a half knot. Okay, in a nutshell, it was another suicide. Okay. So this guy used to say in every speech, I'm not suicidal. Okay. There are people after me. They look, stalking me, whatever. So he goes into detail about these bases, and his information was really unbelievable. Okay. And look, here is one of his speeches. All right. And listen, I'm only going to play a few seconds of this, and I'm going to show you the title. You guys go find it, because the audio on it is not really that good, but there are people that did remaster the audio. And a lot of these videos for some reason of Phil have been suppressed. You could only find a few of them here and there. So go out, look for them, listen to his speeches, because they're amazing. And they fascinate me anyway, because of the things he's saying and the claims. And if you look at the stuff that's coming out today, the information that we're getting, it's all starting to come into play here. Okay. So here, I'm going to play just a little of this and who he was. Okay. So listen, that's Phil. I'm not going to play it. You guys go out and seek out those lectures, listen to them, because they're interesting. I just wanted to show you. I'm not playing it because the audio is really bad. But this one right here is on YouTube. It's called Phil Schneider, May 1995 lecture, DUMBs and NWO. So, I'm finding all of this really interesting, that we're getting this information at this time. And if there are really these cities, if we really have spent $21 trillion on these DUMBs, deep underground military bases, or cities for the elite, the deep state, in so many, I think, the plans that were leaked a while ago, the 16-year plan where, Hillary was supposed to start nuclear war with Russia, and they, New World Order, they were going to pick up from the ashes, the Georgia Guidestone. I mean, all this stuff is stuff that is becoming more and more credible, that were conspiracy theories just, a few years back. But now everything seems to be coming to light, and it's pretty amazing to be talking about them with that. Well, they have that much more credibility. So another thing that I'm going to go into, and I'm going to be doing a video on this probably tomorrow, but I just wanted to show you, okay, RFK the other day came out and said something so unbelievable, and you would think that this would be all over the news, about these 300,000 missing kids. under the Biden administration, these illegal kids, okay? 300,000 missing. And then, you know, I start thinking about these underground cities, underground bases. This information is starting to come out. Things are starting to leak. Where do you hold that many kids? What are those kids doing? Are they, I mean, listen, if you want to start speculating, and I'm not going to make these claims and say this is what's happening, but if I were them, would you take them? Do you need a workforce? Do you need people, a whole new generation to raise underground? If you're planning something, some kind of catastrophic event, why would you build this? And $21 trillion. Well, basically, there's our national debt right there. Not the whole thing, but okay. So, but I want you to listen to what RFK says, because this is probably one of the most shocking things ever said by a government official. All right. Listen to this.
RFK has been busy too, finding the kids Biden lost.
We have ended HHS as the role as the vector, the principal vector in this country for child trafficking. And during the Biden administration, HHS became a collaborator in child trafficking and for sex and for slavery. And we have ended that, and we're very aggressively going out and trying to find these children, 300,000 children that were lost by the Biden administration.
Okay. HHS is the one enabling and doing this for the Biden administration, trafficking the children for S. You got to believe there's major investigations going on about this. And for them to leak this out, for them to say this, they need to get this information out to the public. This could be news coming out that's seriously shocking. I just want to, make a precursor to it. This is what we're starting to see come out. I don't know if it's intentional, where they're giving us a little drip at a time, but this is stuff that we've been hearing for a long time in the rumor mill or through whistleblowers, now starting to come out. I mean, this is the presidential administration saying this at this point. All right. You have 300,000 missing children being trafficked for S. And former Bush administration officials, high-ranking officials, claiming $21 trillion spent on a network of underground cities. This is like the stuff of science fiction or crazy television, guys. I don't know, but you know what? If it's true, I'm glad we're still starting to find out, and I'm glad President Trump is going to tear it apart. So we all need to pray for his safety. I'm going to be doing a follow-up story on the RFK claim. I just wanted to, just give a little precursor as to how that may tie into this and how this information is all being dripped out. And, we were told by 17, if you guys know what I'm talking about, that the information would be dripped out slowly and that this was the Great Awakening. So let's appreciate it for what we could get out of the administration right now. And let's hope that they will be holding people accountable in the near future. All right, guys, until next time, I will be probably making an RFK video soon to touch on that and see what we could dig into on that subject. But until next time, probably tomorrow, my name is Mike. This has been MAGA Headline News, and everybody have a good night. Thanks, guys.